Good morning, beautiful humans. It's good to see you this morning. Thank you for being here. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you are coming to me new after the Dateline episode, I want to say welcome again to all of my new subscribers. I'm grateful that you're here. For those of you who haven't seen me before, I am Lori Vallow Daybell's first cousin, Megan. Lori and I grew up together. She was a bridesmaid in my wedding. We lived together for a short time in Austin. And I spent a lot of time around the Cox family when they lived here in San Antonio for about 10 years. And so in addition to reporting on the case, I also give some family commentary. Hopefully I can answer any questions that you have. And we're here this morning because there's a status conference in the latest trial for Lori Vallow Daybell. She is currently awaiting trial in Maricopa County, Phoenix, Arizona. She is already serving 3 consecutive life sentences in Idaho for the deaths of her 2 children and for Tammy Daybell. And now she's in Arizona. She is representing herself in this new trial, and she has filed some really interesting motions. So far, the judge has denied all of her motions. The last couple of motions, she asked for both cases in the death of her 4th husband, Charles Vallow, and in the attempted shooting of her former nephew, Brandon Boudreaux. She's asked for both of those trials to be dismissed. And those motions to dismiss were denied by Judge Boreski. So I'm going to dig right into some things. The hearing begins at 8:30 Arizona time. I believe people are already in the courtroom. That means the hearing is going on right now, but it's not being live streamed. So what's going to happen is I'm going to read through Justin Lum's live tweets. Justin Lum is the original investigative reporter from Fox 10 Phoenix who began covering this case right from the very beginning, from the day that Charles died. And so I'm going to be reading his live tweets from the courtroom so that we can stay up to date on what's happening. Then around 9:15, Fox 10 Phoenix will post the hearing to its YouTube channel, and I will live stream it from here as well. Yes, that's true. Lindsay Nate Eaton is also there. I don't know yet if Lauren Matthias of Hidden True Crime is there. Hopefully she is, but I haven't heard from her yet. If she is, she most likely will do a live afterwards. So at first, I just want to mention that the Third Verse channel is now sponsored by Revolutionary Media, a company which is dedicated to helping ordinary people like you and me take their skills and expertise from that first spark of an idea all the way to full monetization. You may not know how to navigate the world of social media and YouTube, but Revolutionary Media can help you get your channel set up and monetized within the first 30 to 60 days. If you're interested in that, you can head over to my website at third-verse.com. That's where you would also sign up for one-on-one coaching or get more information about my bully-proof course on how to identify and defend against manipulation and control tactics. So I am going to be sharing my screen here real quickly so that you can see Justin Lum's Twitter feed. I actually want it to be a little bigger than that. So let's go there. There we go. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that Lauren is there in court as well. I'll head over to her Twitter feed here in a second too. So before we get started with the hearing, I want to go over what's going to be covered this morning, the arguments on Court TV live stream broadcast, motions regarding statements by Tylee Ryan and Alex Cox, and the trial schedule, jury selection. Hopefully we're still on schedule to start on the 31st. So here is a motion that was filed by the defense. In other words, Lori. The defendant submits the following supplemental disclosure pursuant to the criminal code. The defense notes the following defenses: insufficiency of the state's evidence, self-defense, defense of others, third party at fault, mere presence, and procedural. The defense notices the following witnesses. This is who she is going to call for witnesses. Sorry, I missed the A part of that because it's not a very good copy. So we just missed the A part. It says B, any and all individuals, including but not limited to victim assistance caseworkers and or volunteers who have spoken with any witness in this case. C, all witnesses listed in the state's Rule 15.1 disclosure, as well as any supplemental witness disclosure filings. And then the custodian of records for any and all exhibits, Nate Eaton, Vaija Itahu, I'm sorry, probably saying that wrong, Gabrielle Bonilla, Joseph Pongratz, Ashlyn Rind, Barry Cox, Zachary Cox, Adam Cox, Janice Cox, Summer Shiflet, should be Shiflet, she misspelled her own sister's name, Brandon Boudreaux. The defense notices the following documents, photographs, and objects that the defense intends to use at trial, any item disclosed by the state, and insufficiency of state's evidence. So it's interesting to see there. These are some of the witness lists, or sorry, some of the victims' advocates as well. Justin says, notice of defenses and disclosure lists her family, Brandon Boudreaux, and Nate Eaton. I showed this to Nate today after an interview, and he has not been served with anything. So that's just interesting to note. And then, yes, it's interesting to note that that she misspelled her own sister's name. So I'm going to go now to the live tweet. There were some, news reports here by Justin Lum, and we can maybe watch those later if it's relevant or if there's time. But for now, I just want to note what is already happening. Justin says prosecutor Trina Kay is here. She does not object to cameras, but is against the live stream. Court TV wants to be the pool camera for the trial. Right now, it's Fox 10 Phoenix. And the live stream, and Court TV wants to live stream the proceedings. Vallow Daybell objects. We will hear arguments on this today. And here comes Lori Vallow Daybell walking into the courtroom. She's smiling, holding her files, and has her hair up in a ponytail. Judge Boreski is here, and we're on the record with a number of things to go over. Matt Kelly now gets to speak to the judge about the pool camera situation. I'm assuming he's representing Court TV. Court TV wants to use 2 cameras for the trial, and they can be operated remotely. The judge now gives Lori a chance to make her argument. She uses a couple of case examples regarding too much publicity. The judge says there will be no media coverage for jury selection, and will have more in his order regarding cameras and live stream. So he's not ready to issue an order yet, apparently. Kelly confirms with the judge on how the camera feed distribution works as they discuss a potential delay in the feed. And that is presumably because just in case Court TV happens to accidentally center in too much on either the defense or the prosecution, or if they inadvertently happen to capture some of the discussion that happens at the bench, if there's a delay on the feed, then they won't be able to, or sorry, if there's a delay on the feed, then they will be able to make sure that those inadvertent recordings don't accidentally get out. And so that's been part of the problem. Badger says mere coverage of her case is irrelevant when it comes to witness testimony regarding the evidence presented to prove or disprove her conspiracy to kill Charles Vallow. And I agree with that. Stacy says Nate is on the list because he's publicly interviewed witnesses, perhaps. He can get out of it being media, though, can't he? You would think so. You would think that an attorney for East Idaho News would be able to quash any subpoena that he receives. But again, I'm not an attorney, and I just have a very limited knowledge on how that works. Again, I think this is really ridiculous for Lori to be making an argument about too much publicity on the case when, as Justine points out, she just appeared on Dateline. I don't know yet how many views that particular episode of Dateline has so far, but it's been very widely distributed and exposed. And she was the one who agreed to that, knowing that, that potential jury pool was going to see that. Insightful one, I'm glad you're here. Good to see you. I don't know why I find the misspelling so funny. Anything to laugh at, I guess, to get through this horror. Yeah, it's hilarious. Now, I do know that Lori is not the one actually typing up the motions. She has a legal assistant that is helping her with that, as well as her 2 advisory counselors. But it is really funny that Summer's last name would be misspelled. I guess Lori didn't have a chance to look those over after they had been typed up. So thanks for saying this, Island Girl. I can't wait for you to revamp your book. I would love to hear your story. I just love watching you on here and Mormon Stories. Thank you so much. I am going to be revising my book, and I have a potential publisher for it. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm already working on it, and I hope to get it done here pretty soon. So I'm going to go back to the live feed, Justin Lum's live tweet. It says, so Court TV. So Matt Kelly, who I mentioned a little bit earlier, is Court TV's attorney. So sorry, I'm going to go back to this so you guys can see it. By the way, thanks for being here. If you take a second to like this, I would really appreciate it. It helps the algorithm push it out to people who need to find it. And I just want to say welcome again to all my new subscribers who've come on, especially if you came to me from Dateline or Mormon Stories. I'm definitely grateful to have new people here on the channel. My little channel is growing, and I'm really grateful for all of your support. So I think the whole reason, Badger says, I think the whole reason she did the Dateline interview was to attempt to influence the jury pool. Yeah, it's possible, but if anybody watched the Dateline, they're probably going to be excluded from the jury pool. I do know that at least one juror in her Idaho case, Tom Evans, who I've interviewed here on my channel, he wrote a book about the case, and he said that he knew who Lori was, but he didn't know anything about the case. And so he was allowed to be on the panel. So people who know who Lori is, they can still be on the jury panel. They just have to not know too many details about the case. So I'm going to be really mad if her family comes in and lies. Me too. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the Justin Lum's live tweeting here to see if there are any updates to what's going on in the courtroom. Vallow Daybell also wants to make sure the camera can't zoom into her notes and that the focus won't be on her face the entire time. This just blows me away that she thinks she can have so much control over what happened or what happens in the courtroom. She doesn't get to control what the camera does in the courtroom, but she's clearly trying to state that to the judge. The judge is not going to direct the cameraman to not be focused on Lori's face the whole time. And I think Lori would probably be upset to know that the camera occasionally zooms in on her shackled feet and her prison flip-flops. She's so vain that she really wants to make sure that the camera does what she wants it to do, which obviously that's not going to happen. I think the judge probably will direct them not to zoom in on her notes or the prosecution's notes. We don't want any of that exposed publicly. The judge says that it's already in his draft and there won't be a zooming in on images of notes on tables. Yes, thank you, duh. Kay Woodcock will be designated victim representative testifying in this trial per the state. Both parties confirmed they're ready to begin trial on March 31st. Prosecution says the case will take 2 to 3 weeks, but her experience with defendants going pro per proceedings usually take longer. Oh, joy, just can't wait. Now the judge is discussing jury selection process in the South Court Tower, which has more space. Trina Kay wants to make sure potential jurors are secured somewhere away from the public and from the media. There are about 6 rooms to use, says Judge Boreski. So I think that is really important to protect the potential jury pool. I think it's important I'm really glad that the judge is moving that jury selection process to a larger venue so that there can be more separation. If you have questions, please call attention to them in the chat with lots of question marks. I am a visual person, so it's going to be easier for me to see if you have some kind of emojis or lots of question marks there. Aaron Coggins says, Megan, I watched Dateline with you and love you on Mormon Stories. I'm a Never Mormon, grew up Pentecostal, very similar, high demand, Armageddon focused, and glad to be here. Thanks, Aaron. Great to see you. Thanks for watching Mormon Stories. I appreciate John DeLynn and his friendship and his mentorship has meant a lot to me. So Latter Daily Digest, thanks for being here. Always a supporter of the channel, says notes will include doodling a personal hangman game. It could be very true. Chelsea says, I wonder if she thinks the prosecution is evil spirits sent to derail her mission from God. Yeah, I think in the past that both Lori and Chad have referred to law enforcement individuals as well as prosecutors, as well as potential, all kinds of people involved with this case, labeled those people dark. if they were against everything that Lori was putting out there. Anybody who was against Chad and Lori was labeled dark. So I wouldn't be surprised if she thinks that the prosecution are evil spirits. And we know from what she said in her interview with Dateline that she really believes that Chad is visiting her in her prison cell through their portal system. And so I'm sure they're probably conversing about who in this case is dark and who is not. It's just really interesting to see. Cat Lady says, thanks for covering this. I appreciate you for being here. Spring 20 says, so excited for you, Megan. You rock. Thank you. Thanks for the support, you guys. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being here. We've got about 360 people in live chat, so I really appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to continue to be covering this case every time that there is a hearing or an update, and I do plan on being in Arizona, although, as I've mentioned before, April is a big month for me personally. I have a daughter who's getting married. I have a grandbaby who's going to be born. So I am going to be spending a lot of time with my family. And so I won't be there every single day. So I'm really grateful for you guys being here. And I can definitely look forward to covering everything that happens in the case. This is a part of the case I'm most interested in because it involves the most of my family members. And I gave up a long time ago trying to get truthful information through family members. And so getting it through the court system, unfortunately, is pretty much the only way that I'm going to be able to get the truth. So let's go back to Justin's live feed over here, his Twitter feed, X feed. I have trouble calling it X. And there are a lot of people who have made comments about me supporting Elon Musk by being on Twitter. Sometimes it's just the best place to get the information. I am not necessarily supporting or not supporting anyone, but the platform is a good place for information. So Justin Lum says 200 jurors will get an e-questionnaire. Both parties will get to see a draft by the end of this week. Those jurors will get the questionnaires on March 24th through March 27th. So if you live in the Phoenix area and you haven't served on a jury pool lately, it's very possible that you could get one of these questionnaires. If anybody in the Phoenix area gets a questionnaire, I'd love to have you on the channel and interview you about it. Obviously, if you're watching my channel, you're probably not going to qualify for jury service. So if you get a questionnaire and you get disqualified from service, I would love to have you on the channel to talk about it. Insightful One says, congratulations, Megan. Focus on the positive. You can always pop on Web Sleuths in between baby time. Thank you so much. I'm always happy to come on Web Sleuths. I'm sorry I couldn't come on last night. I was already headed for bed when I started commenting on your channel, and I'm always happy to come on. So I will be on whenever I can, for sure. Thanks for your support, Insightful One. By the morning of 3/31, the court can go through who needs to be withdrawn from the pool. Whoever is not let go can return on April 1st. As soon as we get 12 qualified jurors plus 3 to 4 alternates, we are good to go. Boreski says he's inclined to include Lori's name on the questionnaire to know if jurors know who she is. He normally does not do that, but I think in this case, it's important. And I'm assuming most likely that Judge Boreski saw the Dateline, or at the very least saw publicity for it. Now, there was an argument back when Lori had other attorneys, when she was being represented by other attorneys. There was a moment where one of the attorneys for Lori definitely got on and, got on with Judge Boreski and said, hey, look, the publicity for this case is everywhere. I'm seeing it on my phone all the time. And he said, I'm sure, Judge, that you've seen lots of publicity. And the judge says, I haven't seen anything about this case. And the attorney said, well, I've seen it everywhere. It's all over my phone. And Judge Boreski just very dryly said, well, that's probably because you're searching for it. And that was it. I have a recording of that over on my channel. Actually have an entire playlist for Lori's Arizona trial if you want to go all the way back to the beginning, from the moment that she arrived in Arizona, everything that's been done in the case. I have episodes of those on a playlist on my channel page. On the main page, you can go to the Arizona trial list. And I've got all kinds of videos giving all of the updates in the case so far, all the motions that she's filed, all of the denials from the judge would so far, all of her motions have been denied. That was a really funny conversation that happened live in the courtroom. And I think I went on Web Sleuths and we talked about it on there as well. So going on with Justin, he says, Lori says there could be people who see her name and want to be a part of the jury and will say they don't know who she is in order to be in the pool. Once again, Lori continues to just make me laugh with her grandiosity and her incredible arrogance to think that people are going to see her name and then lie about not knowing about the case just because they want to be on the jury pool. It just is ridiculous to me that she really believes that that's true. She really believes everyone loves her. And apparently, according to the Dateline interview, when she gets exonerated, because she and Chad are both going to be exonerated, then she will go on Dancing with the Stars. And so I think she just believes she's going to be a celebrity when all of this is over and that she's going to be released from prison and everybody is going to know that she was right all along. And apparently she's not going to tell us, well, she's going to tell us, I told you so. She's going to tell Keith Morrison, I told you so, when that happens. She really just is ridiculous in Spring 20. You should know better than to drink coffee while we're reading statements from Lori Vallow Daybell. CC says, hey, from Ireland, it's 3:45 p.m. Never Mormon, but fascinated by all things Mormon. It seems that the faith provides a fertile foundation for a heck of a lot of truly crazy people and behavior. I agree with you. There is a foundation of magical thinking. There is a foundation of believing that you're really special and important. There is a foundation of, Joseph Smith manufacturing self-importance, manufacturing visions from God, and manufacturing revelation from God. And so that's where the foundation from all of this comes from. If you want to know some more things about the origin story of the LDS Church, over the next few weeks up to the start of trial, I'm going to be doing more on my Mormonism 101 series. I already have some Mormonism 101 videos that I started to post while I was going over the Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I never made it all the way through the series. It was just too hard for me to deal with that. But I did do some Mormonism 101 videos. I'm going to continue to do some of those so that those of you who've never been Mormon can understand the foundations of the religion and how it is that we have so many people, especially in the last couple of years, who have been, so many Mormon people who've been committing crimes. And I will just go out there and say the majority of Mormon people, especially the ones that I have known, 95% of the religion probably, are just very good, very kind, wonderful people who just want to do good things and be good servants in the community. That's the majority of Mormonism. There is also a contingent, though, and I've said this before, that people with a tendency for narcissistic traits and people with personality disorders tend to take a high demand religion and examine it even further and take it to extremism. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have so many people like this in the Mormon religion. So yes, the end of the world is nigh, according to Chad and Lori, but I think that they believe they're going to be exonerated before the end of the world so that they can continue their mission in gathering the 144,000. So I'm going to go back again now to the Twitter feed over here with Justin Lum. Lori Vallow Daybell tells the judge that in Idaho's group voir dire, they went through 1,900 people and she would prefer individual voir dire so jurors don't learn details through group panels. The judge is not against that, but it's a wait and see for now. That's actually kind of a decent comment from Lori. I agree. They did go through a lot of jurors, 1,900 people. She wants individual voir dire rather than group panels. That would take a lot longer, but I understand why she's asking for that. So the judge said it's not against, judge is not against it, but it's a wait and see for now. She says, the state says they can provide witness list by the end of the month. That's good because it's March and we probably need a witness list by the end of the month. Prosecution also requests a half day on the 24th of April. I'm going to make a note of that. So we'll see if that gets approved, presumably because of other cases. Lori Vallow Daybell confirms jury selection begins on 3/31, but in-person proceedings happen on April 1st through April 3rd. These remote questionnaires will be expected to come back by 3/27 so they can be reviewed. Can 200 be whittled down to 12? That's the question. Now on to the motions. This one has to do with email communications by the prosecution. The state says everything has been provided. Lori Vallow Daybell says only 6 emails have been obtained from a short time span. The prosecution confirms a lot of communications with law enforcement have been by phone. On to the second issue regarding Lori's request for video interviews. So this is interesting that, Lori keeps asking for discovery. The state says they've provided everything, and Lori keeps asking for it. I've been involved in another case before where one side was continuing to ask for discovery, and the other side was saying, I don't have it. It's just not here. I can't provide discovery for something that I actually don't possess. And the other side just kept saying, oh, there has to be more. And they were saying, there isn't more. I've given you everything that I have. And they were asking for specific things for text messages and other communications. And it was just like the defense is saying, in this case, a lot of our communications were phone conversations of which there's no recording. So I can't provide you with that discovery. So it kind of seems like that's what's happening here. I did not watch the Netflix show American Primeval, and I'll tell you why. It's because I heard a lot of different reviews of it, and I heard some people that I knew who had seen it who said it was wildly inaccurate. It's supposed to be a depiction of the Mountain Meadows Massacre, and I'm actually going to grab my book here in a second. I met the author, Barbara Jones Brown, of a book called Vengeance is Mine about the Mountain Meadows Massacre. And if you want to know the truth about the massacre, I think that is the most comprehensive and the best book. The Netflix show got a lot of things really, really wrong. And honestly, I think they kind of downplayed how horrible and violent it was. For those of you who don't know what the Mountain Meadows Massacre is, it was a time during the Utah War, around 1857 to 1859, when American troops were coming to the Utah Territory to basically remove Brigham Young as the governor because he was establishing a theocracy. And Brigham Young sort of declared something akin to martial law, where he cautioned all of the Mormons not to sell provisions or ammunition to any of the wagon trains that were passing through the Utah Territory. And he actually was telling natives who lived in the area, the Utes and the Paiutes, to raid these wagon trains, to steal their cattle, and to bring it to the Mormon settlement so that they could benefit from it. And unfortunately, one of those cattle raids went very, very wrong. And there was a huge massacre where about 100 men, women, and children were killed by Mormons. And for a long time, they tried to cover it up and pretend like it was the natives who did it, the Utes and the Paiutes, and it was not. So that's what American Primeval is supposed to be about, but they got a lot of the details wrong. So sorry for going off on a tangent, but if we're mentioning American Primeval, I really want to make sure that I say that it's not really accurate. So good morning, everybody. I'm just going to go back to the live tweet with Justin Lum so that we can see what else is happening. They were just about to discuss cameras in the courtroom when I broke away from that. So let's go back and see what is being said. So we've been all the way through so far. What they're discussing is the Gilbert Police Department body cam footage with Charles Vallow on January 31st of 2019, because that's the time when Charles started reporting some of the crazy beliefs that Lori had. It says, but Lori wants the interview with her, Tylee Ryan, and Melanie Gibb hours after Charles had pleaded with Gilbert Police to get Lori help. Lori is referring to the interview after Charles allegedly took Lori's purse out of her car while she was dropping off JJ. And this was long prior to Charles's death. This was back in January, February of 2019. There was an interview at the police department where Lori went in trying to get her purse back. and her, Tylee, and Melanie Gibb were together, there is an interview that happens at the police department where the officer informs Lori that Charles is trying to get her to submit herself to a psychological evaluation, and the officer is advising Lori to go ahead and go in and get the evaluation done and pass the evaluation to satisfy that requirement, just to ease everybody's fear. The officer says, "You don't seem like a danger to yourself or others." And so he says, "Why don't you go ahead and go in and get that done?" So just for those of you who are just joining us now, there's a hearing going on right now in the Maricopa County Courthouse for Lori's upcoming trial in the conspiracy to commit murder against Charles Vallow. And Lori has asked for the case to dismiss. She's filed lots of motions. She's representing herself in that case. And so far, the judge has denied all of her motions. And what they're discussing this morning is whether they're going to allow Court TV to have cameras in the courtroom and whether or not the trial itself will be live streamed, and what is on the and whether or not they're going to have a delay. So far, they've had some discussion about that. If you're just coming in, thank you for joining. Please hit the like button if you have a second. It really helps the channel. And if you are not subscribed, I would really appreciate it if you'd take a second and do that. About half the people who watch my videos are not subscribed, and more subscribers just helps me get the information to more people as YouTube pulls on that algorithm for you. So going on, it says, Daybell says body cam videos have been segmented into 12-minute chunks. She's looking for some sort of video that is angled above the room in an interrogation manner. I know the one that she is talking about. She probably could just reference the date and we could find it. Justin says, we know Gilbert Police Department had body cameras on, but I've never seen a ceiling camera angle from that day in 2019. And I think I know what she's referring to. I think she's referring to, again, the visit to the police department where she asked the officers to get some help getting her purse back. I think that's what she's talking about, but I could be wrong, because I know it wasn't the same day that Charles Vallow went and told the police about some of her crazy beliefs and feeling like he was in danger. He says the state will follow up on this evidence that Lori claims is online. We're moving on to Tylee Ryan's and Alex Cox's statements on the day of Charles's murder. Lori says they don't fall under hearsay. Now, the prosecution filed a motion to have Tylee Ryan's interview with the police officer. And I'm seeing that court just went live. We will head over there in just a second. But the prosecution has asked to have that particular testimony left out of the trial because they consider it to be hearsay. And I can see why they would want it to be left out, because it really does paint Charles as the aggressor. I'm going to have to shoot. I always hate it when I set this live stream up on the wrong tab. I am going to go over to the live stream of the hearing now on the Fox 10 Phoenix so we can watch it together. And here we go.
Impartial trial when publicity court, Mr. Justice Clark held that failure of the state judge in murder prosecution to protect defendant from inherently prejudicial publicity, which saturated the community to control disruptive influences in courtroom, deprived the defendant of a fair trial consistent with due process. So that and Arizona versus Cheney, which was the defendant is entitled to fair and impartial trial when publicity pervades court proceedings to the extent that the proceedings were prejudiced to the defendant. So obviously you read my objection, so I just wanted to add those on the record. Okay. Thank you.
Your prior attorneys had filed a series of objections to media coverage or media being allowed in the courtroom. And I made a prior ruling that was filed back September 4th, which was fairly comprehensive. I am inclined to allow one pool camera. I'll issue an order with more detailed findings later today or tomorrow. But essentially, there won't be any media coverage during the jury selection process, and I'll put the reasons for that in the order. So that's, again, I'll issue a more detailed order later today or tomorrow. All right.
Your Honor, there's also the issue of whether Court TV will be allowed to live stream the trial. In other words, broadcast online in real time. Court TV would prefer to do that.
Are you able to, are they able to do a 1 or 2 minute delay?
Certainly, we can certainly do that. I just want to inform Your Honor, however, that when we share the footage with the pool, we can't delay that footage. So your order would need to require that all media receiving the feed delay it by however long you wish to delay it.
And the camera, the pool camera would be simultaneously distributing that feed to whatever media requests it?
That's correct. We have the capability to distribute to up to 30 or 40 different media outlets. So we have plenty of bandwidth to do so.
It's prejudicial. And it's gonna be
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Lori just
Let's get down
whispered
to
it's
business
prejudicial.
on some of the.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
Could I just add that we want to make sure that the cameras aren't going to be zooming in at any level to get to our notes and the things that are going to be on the table. I also previously, what has happened before is that they just have the camera on my face the entire trial. So I think when the judge is speaking, the judge needs to be on the camera. When the state is speaking, they need to be on camera. If we can add that to the order, I think.
All right. Well, my draft already includes that there'll be no zooming in on counsel table, anything on counsel table, or anything being handled, notes or that sort of thing being handled by any of the parties or the attorneys. As far as what they focus on, they'll be limited to focusing on the parties, myself, the witness, depending on the witness. I need to ask the state about that in a second, but they won't be allowed to broadcast any image of any juror. While I'm on that subject, let me ask the state, are you seeking any sort of protective order when a named victim testifies?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Will you let me know if that changes?
Yes, I will.
Do you have do you have the names of your designated victim or victim representatives that might be testifying?
Kay Woodcock is
I always think it's funny when they
a
zoom in on her.
statutory legal victim and will be testifying.
Is that the only one?
At this time, yes.
Okay,
For this trial, I should say.
for this trial. Okay. Let me ask this, are the parties ready to proceed around March 31st or April 1st?
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let me ask the state next. Earlier during these proceedings and past hearings, you indicated you thought the state's case in chief would take 2 weeks. You requested yesterday to screen for 6 weeks.
Your Honor, I did say 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay.
But I did say that while we had a defense attorney on and not Ms. Vallow herself. I am familiar with other pro per trials where generally the timelines are in excess of those with a defense attorney assigned. So in order to ensure that we aren't asking a jury later to stay longer than we pre-screen them, I believe it would be appropriate to screen them for 6 weeks.
So now that you're gearing up for trial and maybe you have a better idea, how long do you think your case in chief would take with a normal amount across? I know that's hard to estimate.
And again, I would say 2 to 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
That would be at the outset of it.
Okay.
Probably, yeah, 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay. Let me ask advisory council, if we do an questionnaire, would you be assisting Ms. Daybell with your laptop in going through the answers that are received?
Yes, Your Honor. I mean, assuming we do all of that, because a lot of times the courts send us back to our office to go through that. So if we do that here, then yes, of course, she's welcome to use our laptops.
Right. My plan is we can do jury selection in the South Court Tower 5C. I know that the state has requested that the entire trial be held there. We can't do it. We can do jury selection there. I can give you rooms here for your victims and witnesses as need be that are outside this courtroom that we'll have. We can have them stream in if you want, depending on, I guess, who the witness is or who's back there.
And obviously, Your Honor, I don't know if the public will be attending this or not. This also is a little different in that even in the mornings, the jury is going to be potentially out here while the court is having morning calendar. If there's media out there as well, I'm just trying to protect the integrity of the trial by ensuring that the public, the media are not interacting with witnesses at any time while they're out there. It's difficult when it's a very small hallway and very limited rooms just to put them in. Obviously, I need a room for the victims that's separate from any witnesses.
Well, we have on this floor 6 rooms, 5 or 6 rooms throughout. We have 3 right behind this courtroom.
I'm holding
And
my
we
mic,
can utilize them
not my
as
cat.
need be to ensure that there's no improper contact between media or the public in general and any victims or witnesses. We can also ensure that the jurors don't have contact. If that means we bring them up in a separate elevator and have them assemble somewhere else, we can accomplish that. So my plan will be to do an questionnaire, remote questionnaire for the first 200 jurors. That questionnaire, I need to get a final joint pretrial statement with the list of witnesses to include the names of witnesses in that, but I'd like to send out a draft to everyone by the end of this week. Let me bring up my calendar.
Did anyone catch that hot mic right there, what she whispered? I didn't hear it.
We would probably send that out to the first 200 jurors around next Thursday, March 20th. Yeah.
The first day they can send it out to 24th.
Oh, I guess they can't send it out.
So you can do from the 24th to the morning, 27th.
Okay, so we can send out that the 24th to the 27th, meaning it would be cut off on the 27th. The answers to those questionnaires would be emailed to the parties. That would give the parties the 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st to go through those answers. We would meet on the morning of the 1st, discuss who needs to be let go based on those answers. Also on the morning of the 1st, a number of walk-in jurors that for whatever reason don't fill out the questionnaire in advance would come in to the jury room, the jury assembly room that morning and fill out the questionnaire. So that morning we'd also deal with those walk-in answers as best we can. Oh, that's right. I back up. The initial answers for the remote, we're going to meet on the 31st. Let those people go. Whoever we don't let go will be told to report on the afternoon of the 1st. On the afternoon of the 1st, we'll be dealing with the walk-ins that come in the morning of the 1st. And the people that we haven't let go the afternoon of the 1st, that will be in person voir dire as needed. if we need to, which I anticipate we probably will, we'll do another 200 jurors on the 2nd. And if need be, we have another 100 jurors on the 3rd.
That next set of 200, that wouldn't be a remote question?
They
That'd
don't
be
have
regular.
a capability to do it remote, so we may have to, what'll happen is on the 1st, all those people, after they give their answers, will be randomized. The list will be re-randomized. As we proceed through the 2nd, those people get added onto the bottom of the list. So as soon as we get 12 jurors that qualify, that everyone's happy with, that don't have issues, plus probably 3 or 4 alternates. So as soon as we get to about 15 or 16, we're pretty much done with jury selection. So we don't have to necessarily question all 200 of those people. We can do panels of 20 or something like that. I anticipate losing quite a large number of people just based on prior media coverage and people already having some sort of opinion about the case. I normally wouldn't include a defendant's name in the e-questionnaire that goes out remotely, but on this case, I'm inclined to, just because that's what we want to know. We want to know if people have heard about the defendant and whether or not they've heard about, or if they've formed an opinion about her or this case prior to that. Does anyone have an issue with that, State?
No, Your Honor, I think that that's a good idea. That's going to be at least one of the initial reasons to strike a lot of jurors.
My only issue with it, Your Honor, is that it could be bad both ways, right? If you put the name in there, if you don't put the name in there. It's been my experience that people will say they haven't heard when they know who that really is. And there's people that will want to be on this jury just for this purpose.
So arrogant.
Well,
It's going to be complicated.
all the research indicates that these e-questionnaires, people are more likely to give honest, candid answers than if they're in a group of people and they feel sort of that peer pressure of what's a good answer and what's a bad answer. Your name's going to come up sooner or later, so I would prefer to just get it out in front of the potential jurors to begin with. My e-questionnaire is going to be fairly basic. It's going to focus on qualifications, the charges, the witnesses, and then obviously whether they have an opinion about you or this case. For the people that make it past that level, we'll question them more thoroughly in person.
And like you were saying, as far as group kind of voir dire, in my experience, we went through 1,900 jurors in my last trial. So it would be good to do individual voir dire if we can, then group voir dire, because they learn things just in the voir dire and it disqualifies a lot of jurors.
I'm not opposed to that, but that's going to be sort of a day of play it by ear sort of situation, whether
Sure.
we do small panels or just go a single person. If we go single person, our jury selection could extend into the next week. But if we're able to seat a jury, I would expect opening statements on April 7th, somewhere around there. Does the state indicated, I have it, there was just one day in April that you wanted to go a half day?
Correct, Your Honor, the 24th.
Just so that you know, March 31st is a Monday.
Right.
April
When
7th
can you
is a Monday.
file some sort of pretrial statement that sets forth all your potential witnesses and a statement of the facts?
Probably by Thursday.
All right.
Mark?
Does the state anticipate any presentation of autopsy photos or crime scene photos? In other words, I'm trying to gauge, I would usually put in a question about jurors may be required to view evidence that shows wounds or that sort of thing. Is there anyone that's unwilling to look at this type of evidence?
Yes, Your Honor, we will have both, obviously, with self-defense trajectory and those injuries are very relevant.
Okay, so I will include a question about that type of evidence. Sometimes jurors don't want to look at that type of evidence, so. All right, any questions or concerns about our jury selection, the proposed trial dates from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Just so I have it clear, Your Honor, we're going to start on the 31st with jury selection. Is that
We'll
correct?
be meeting on the 31st,
Okay.
and then actual dealing with in-person jurors on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd.
Okay.
Robert and I.
Let me ask advisory council, are there any dates that advisory council would need to be dark?
I am fine for April. I didn't hear back from Robert. I would think. I'd
Please
be
let
fine
us
for-
know, because in that e-questionnaire, I'm going to put in a proposed schedule. I don't know that I'm going to screen for a full 6 weeks based on the state's anticipated presentation, maybe 5 weeks. So into let us know the schedule into the first week or 2 of May.
As soon as I get an answer from him, I'll email your judicial assistant.
All right.
And one more time, Your Honor, so the remote question is going out on March 24th. All answers have to be back by the 27th, so we will get them on the 27th or,
You'll either get them late the 27th or first thing the 28th.
Okay.
In the morning, late in the morning, on the 27th.
Oh, okay.
okay.
So
You should get them some point on the 27th.
Just so we can plan, because it sounds like we'll just go out to Estrella and go through these.
Yeah, they're closing it at like 8 AM on the 27th.
You'll have to have a internet connection.
Yeah,
Out
we
there,
can use
okay.
our laptops out there.
Okay.
Because you want to be ready to discuss everything on March 31st.
Yeah, and
That's
if the parties have an obvious, there's some jurors that are going to be obvious that need to be let go. If you're ready for that, that's always helpful. I know it's a little bit more difficult with pro per defendant in consulting like that. All right, let me get to,
So we'll come out on Friday. And go through the questionnaire. We don't get any questions on that.
all right, the defendant
Yes,
had
and
filed 2 separate motions for specific discovery. The first dealt with communication between the assigned deputy county attorney and law enforcement agencies. I've read and the second one was, well, let's deal with the first one. I've read the response from the state. Basically, your response is you have disclosed all those communications. There are no other communications.
Correct, Your Honor.
All right. So let me ask the defendant.
Yeah, we received 6 email communications, and they were in a short time frame, not the full time frame. And it seems to me that in the last email ends in kind of a question that was probably answered, and then there's like no more communication. So it doesn't make sense that there's no more. We asked for all of them if they could be provided to us. We don't understand why they're not being provided to us, and what the state is possibly hiding at this point, and they can't just turn it over so that we can go through them. It's been, long over a month since we filed that motion. So we would just like them to please turn over whatever they have left.
Iris,
And
then I think she
I'll
had
ask
some
the
permanent makeup.
Deputy County Attorney, I imagine some communications are by phone. So in other words, we're not captured.
Correct, Your Honor.
All right. Based on the state's avowal, I don't know, I can't tell them to turn over something they say they don't have, so. I'll find that the state, based on their avowal, and officers of the court have complied with the request. The second one is a little more, I wanted to get clarification on. That was defendant's requests for video interviews, but it seemed like based on the state's response that there was some confusion about what was a interview recorded in an interrogation room situation versus a body cam. Did the state's response provide clarification to you?
No. So the body cams were turned over and they're in like 12-minute increments. There's like 4 different body cams. This was a full 2-hour video that was released by Gilbert Police to the public and it's online. So I would like that video of the interrogation room, the full 2-hour one, to be turned over to the defense.
All right, so do you know what that is?
Your Honor, based upon the defendant's reply, she's requesting a video interview from the 31st. Those are on body cam and were turned over to the defense. We have requested everything from, I think that one was from actually the Gilbert Police Department. A lot of these overlap. So I am not sure what the defendant is.
Who was the person being interviewed? And you said the 2-hour interrogation that Gilbert released.
So it's myself and my daughter, Tylee Ryan, and Melanie Gibb.
And is that in an interrogation type room?
Yeah, it was at the Gilbert Police Station and I didn't realize we were being filmed that whole time. I didn't know we were being filmed, but we were being filmed in that room.
And are you familiar with a video in a room?
Yes, that's what we have disclosed, is an interview of, it is
And you're saying you don't have it?
defendant, her daughter, and another.
And you're saying you haven't gotten that?
They have given 4 about 12-minute body cam videos of the policemen's body cams that were in the room with us, and they go in and out of the room at different times. So there's different body cams. They're all mixed up. It's not the full entire one. And the full entire, my understanding is that the full entire 2-hour interrogation room video from the ceiling is available online, but I don't have it in Discovery.
That's what I'm trying to clarify. So
Right.
did the state disclose not a body cam, but an interrogation from up in the corner of a room vantage point?
I mean, we disclosed a lot. Let me see if I can find out.
Chad never wore a ring during his trial.
Yes, my paralegal is present here as well, and she has advised that we did. Your Honor, we disclosed over.
Can your
Where is
paralegal
it?
provide a Bates number or something so that maybe the defense just has overlooked it?
Good to see you, Web Sleuths.
Let's see if we can find the actual
Maybe the discovery notice.
discovery letter.
Okay.
I think they can get those hair ties in the commissary, actually. I would assume probably her mom is providing her with commissary money. If you saw the Dateline interview, Lori claimed that those malachite wedding bands were originally intended for Alex and Zulema, which I think is ridiculous. So that's the joke here. They do write to each other, but they're not allowed to communicate in any other fashion. Oh, except through portals, of course. I have heard that she does have a little band of Mary followers in prison and texting with her on her little prison iPad as well. Well, at least she did in Idaho. I don't know if she's allowed to have that while she's awaiting trial in Arizona. No divorce for immortal beings. Remember, she said that Melanie Gim confirmed that in the Dateline interview. They are definitely not at the same jail.
Your Honor, all we do have is the 4 body cam. We can ask again and see if they have a overall
Are you getting this? Have you seen this, or someone told you that there's this video?
My mitigator showed me part of that video. Yes, with my previous team. That's how I know about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't know about it. She said, "Do you know this is online?" I didn't have any idea.
And you're sure it's the Gilbert PD on that date?
Correct.
All right, I'll ask the state to follow up with Gilbert on that.
I think that would be very unlikely, Ruth Heath.
If that is out there, obviously it should have been disclosed.
Mhm.
All right, remind me to follow up on that next time we are together. Next, I have a motion limine, two motions in limine, one regarding Alex Cox statements and one regarding Tylee Ryan's
Good question, McJet. I'm guessing she doesn't need her magic
All right,
underwear
so-
since she's exalted.
Let me ask the defendant, generally any out of, hearsay is defined as any out of court statement offered for the truth of the matter asserted. The state is referencing what are definitely out of court statements. Obviously there's some exceptions to the hearsay rule, and there are other things that are characterized as non-hearsay.
I think they're out
So
there.
how do you think, let's first talk about Alex Cox. How do you think the statements fit into your, either one of those exceptions or non-hearsay?
I feel like the state is blanketing that whole thing, and obviously it's like a case by case basis, right, on these statements. So there is the police interview of Alex Cox that I did not think falls under hearsay.
Why not?
Why does it not fall under hearsay?
Yeah.
Because we're not using it for the truth of the matter asserted. We're using it in corroboration of the circumstances. Everyone came in and told their same story that corroborates different facts in there, not for the whole truth of the matter.
Aren't you arguing that what he said was true?
I can't say whether another person says that it's true or not, but I'm saying what he said and what my daughter said and what I said in those 3 police interviews determined what the police said, how the police acted, what they did after that, their next steps, how they treated the entire case like it was self-defense. All of those are relevant to the defense that it was self-defense. So yes, I think they're for that purpose. But I also think that Alex's statements also have a lot of the exceptions apply. 803, 804. There's a lot of exceptions that also apply to some of his statements and not all of his statements.
Such as what? Which statements do you think they apply to?
I specifically his statements made on body cam to police in the driveway, specifically his.
I don't know what the statements are, so that's what I'm asking. What specific statements do you think are allowed to come in under the rules of evidence?
I think under 8031, the present sense impression is his statements made to police officers at the house.
A present sense impression is where you're actually observing something and you're talking about it as you see it happen. So, isn't he saying, again, I don't know what the statements are, but is he saying what happened prior? Or is he saying
Yes,
something
prior.
that he's, okay,
Correct,
so it's not a
prior.
present sense impression.
Okay.
What else?
Then I think it falls under 8032, excited utterance. He was under the stress of the whole situation when he made those statements.
Excited utterance.
What was his demeanor when he made those statements?
Looks pretty calm to me, Lori.
Upset.
What's the specific statement?
I shot my brother-in-law in self-defense. I got hit in the head with a bat.
Why would she
There
not
was an
want that in?
altercation. I don't know what all the statements are, but
How long after the incident did he make these statements?
immediately after, as far as I know.
It was at least an hour,
Well,
Lori.
immediately to some people means 2 seconds, to other people it means 30 minutes.
Thank you, Judge.
Tell me what immediately means to you.
as soon as the police arrived.
I don't know did they arrive 30 minutes after the incident? 10 minutes, an
Gotta be
hour?
specific, Lori.
I was not there. I do not know what time they arrived.
Oh, but there was a timestamp on the body
All right.
cam footage, Lori. Don't play dumb.
Let me, so you're asserting excited utterance. Some of these statements come in. What else?
8033, the mental, emotional, and physical condition, because it shows his state of mind, which was scared at the time.
How do you know he was scared, Lori?
Any others?
Yes. 8035B, the recorded recollection. I know that in the state's reply to my response, they did not think that 805 applied because A, B, and C, but I did not see an and after A. So my assumption was that B and C, since there's an and after B, were what needed to be put together. So B was made or adopted by this witness when the matter was fresh in the witness's memory and accurately reflects the witness's knowledge. So I felt like 803B5B, the recorded recollection of his police interview and the body cam footage, applies under that exception.
All right. Generally, 8035 is a recorded recollection, meaning it's something they wrote down, or maybe they recorded their voice saying something. Let me ask the state to respond. We're just talking about the Alex Cox statements.
Thank you, insightful one.
Your Honor,
Maybe I should start with,
Yeah.
does the state intend on introducing any statements from Alex Cox?
Your Honor, I haven't decided if we will at this point. I can say with 100% certainty, we will not be admitting his interview by police that was done at after 10 o'clock in the morning. We don't,
Are you referencing what time he was interviewed versus the time of the incident?
let me say it this way. So the state has laid out in its motion the timeline. So that is actually in our motion. We show that when
8:30 a.m.
is when the
roughly.
911 call was made. So we have soon after that, the police arrived and there's body cam video from that interview. Then Alex Cox is later brought to the police station and there is a in-depth interview with detectives at a little after 10 o'clock in the morning.
So you may or may not be attempting to introduce statements at or around the time that the police responded?
Correct, Your Honor. If we do, those would be brought in as co-conspirator statements against a party interest. So obviously the state can bring in statements that are hearsay against a party.
Right. But I guess, is the state intending on introducing any statements of Tylee?
No, Your Honor. Kylie made no statements at the scene other than giving her general biographical information on body cam. Her entire statements were made at the police station, again, after 10 in the morning.
All right. So on your response as it relates to Tylee, you say, again, present sense impression. I don't think it's a present sense impression. You also argue excited utterance. What else?
8033, which is mental, emotional, and physical condition, with the same thing, her state of mind, then being scared. And also 8043, statement against interest. They use that statement in the indictment where Tylee says that Charles says, if you hit me with that bat, you're going to jail. That's the part where she's nervous in her interview, saying she's scared to tell the police that she's the one that brought in the bat. So state of mind and the statement against interest both apply to Tylee's
All right.
police interview.
All right. Anything else? Does the state want to be heard further on that?
Your Honor, the only further thing I think that the state will bring in is that obviously the defendant has been found guilty of killing both Tylee, other individuals, but in this case, the defendant cannot benefit from killing a witness and then later try to bring in their statements for their benefit. So in addition to none of her statements being admissible under the rules of evidence, as any of the exceptions that the defendant has done, we also believe that it would be improper for her to be allowed to bring them in under that theory.
In other words, there's been a judicial finding that the reason Tylee's unavailable as a witness is because of the defendant's actions.
Correct, Your Honor. There has been a jury trial and she has been convicted of that.
All right. All right, the court is on a preliminary basis precluding references to Tylee Ryan's statements, any statement made by Tylee Ryan. If there's some reason where a door might be open to any of those statements coming in, the defendant's requested to make a request outside the presence of the jury regarding that, and we'll deal with that outside the presence of the jury.
I like this ruling. Thank you,
On
Judge.
Alex Cox, I think that's probably going to be more of a statement by statement basis. But I'm skeptical of any statements coming in hours after the initial police response. I think we'll deal with what statements may or may not come in when the police first arrived on scene and or the 911 at the time that they're attempted to be introduced. All right, I also received yesterday state's
point.
notice of
Already being-
disclosure and request for disclosure. Did you get a copy of that?
No,
You haven't seen that yet?
no.
I'm sorry, the
State's notice of disclosure and request for disclosure. I didn't realize it was actually filed in January, so you should have seen that. I misspoke when I said I got it yesterday. It was filed January 16th. Have you seen that?
I'm looking it up. What are we? Dates
I
disclosure.
think that the court may have ruled on that one, Your Honor.
Well, I don't think I ruled on, at the very end, you're requesting, she submit to fingerprints, palm print, footprint.
Oh, that's, okay. I think that was fired, yes, significantly. So that would be to tie her to any of her.
Is that for other conviction purposes?
Correct, yes.
All right. And when did you want to do that?
What is that about?
If we are going to be here on the 18th, we can take them then.
I don't know that we need to be here on the 18th.
And obviously, I was unaware we were going to set this because we set it
Right.
just recently, so. I don't know if we can keep that on just to take that.
Okay, what about the state, you requested copies of any recorded statements made during interviews conducted outside of your presence? Is there any of those, were there any interviews conducted by you or your team? Of
So
any,
far?
were there any interviews conducted of any witnesses out by you or your team that you're aware of?
So far, not that I'm aware of.
All right. Do you plan on calling any experts to testify?
We do plan on calling one expert.
Who's that? Has it been disclosed to the state?
We are, yes, we're working on that today as an addendum to the
Who's that?
witness list that, Lonnie Dworkin.
All right. That's your investigator?
No, my investigator, Jeff White.
Oh.
That's the expert.
What kind of expert is Lonnie Dworkin?
Phone and digital.
I think I remember his name. Are you aware of that?
No, Your Honor.
All right, expert reports and disclosures are due 30 days before trial generally under the rules. So if you're planning on using that witness, you need to get that disclosed right away, and I may have to take that up depending on what the state's position is. But
Your
at this
Honor,
point,
that-
it's technically late.
May be another reason to be here on the 18th. Obviously, if that's disclosed this week, we can potentially address that issue on the 18th.
All right. Let me ask the defendant, do you have a position on the taking of prints and photographs? Generally, identification type things are permitted over any defendant objections. So do you have a record you want to make on that?
Not really.
All right, I don't see any
For
reason
what
why.
purpose? I don't understand.
In the event that you're convicted, it may be used to prove other convictions. That reminds me, is the state planning on proceeding in the second trial regardless of what happens in the first trial?
I believe so, yes, Your Honor.
And how much time would you need between the conclusion of the first trial and the start of the second trial?
Your Honor, I would say at least 30 days since we do need to actually subpoena out-of-state witnesses for the second trial.
I'm wondering if it wouldn't benefit everyone to go ahead and set that a provisional second trial date now.
I believe she
That's
already
fine, Your
had permanent makeup done. So for those of you who are just joining us, we're watching the hearing. This is not live. It was recorded earlier in the morning.
Is that second trial,
Right.
how long do you think it would take the state to
Probably
present?
about 3 weeks as well.
Similar?
I'm grateful the judge just ruled that Tylee's statements cannot be used. And so far, we don't have a ruling on cameras in the courtroom.
Your Honor, I'd like to remind the court that the last day is May 11th.
Well, I'll probably exclude some time based on the fact that you can't do two trials at once.
Haha.
The state could combine the trials and do two trials at once, but they don't want to do two trials at once. So it really violates my speedy trial rights if they do not give me a speedy trial by May 11th for both cases.
Not true.
Uh,
Second trial is for Brandon Boudreaux.
Not to mention that they did combine all the discovery into one case. They didn't give me two different separate discoveries for two different cases, which would be much more convenient considering the voluminous amount of discovery that they piled onto us.
Ooh, she's
does the
showing
state want
her
to do combine both cases?
as
Your Honor,
now.
if the court gave us a little time to work it out and the defendant wants to join them, I mean, obviously,
I don't know that,
with a normal defense attorney, and I don't mean that in any way, normally they would be severed.
severed because you
Due
don't
to-
want one jury to know about the other
Correct.
two separate charges and have a harmful rub-off effect of
Exactly.
one, the evidence in one case affecting the evidence in another case.
Correct, Your Honor. That's why they were filed separately. But if the defendant wants them together, the state would have to request this be pushed back slightly so that we could then get all the witnesses for that trial together, since they were not subpoenaed for this trial. But if that's what the defendant wants to join them, and she understands that prejudice and that she's then going to be waiving that prejudice with that, then the state is certainly willing to do that. But we would then have to request to have that trial, or this trial date moved back to allow us to get the other witnesses lined up.
I think that's what I heard, Beverly, derogatory. I'm glad the judge has taken his time to consider, make her sweat.
That was not, yeah, that's not what I was saying, it's to combine them. I'm just saying, give me my second trial by May 11th. So
Right.
the court can figure that out.
All right, well, I'm going to waive some time on that second trial over the defendant's objection.
Thank you, Judge.
Primarily, again, the defendant can't try both cases at the same time.
Yeah.
Secondly, I'm not sure how much actual prejudice there is with a time violation in the sense that you wouldn't be released from custody anyway. And thirdly, the rule for time violations under Rule 8, I think it's 8.6 is that any violation should be a dismissal without prejudice unless there's an actual prejudice shown, in which case the state could just refile the charge. Regardless, I think some time is warranted to be excluded because primarily you can't try two cases at once. What if we set a start date for May 12th? I realize that's could potentially be a quick turnaround, but again, I don't think this case is going to take 6 weeks.
Your Honor,
We can adjust that as necessary.
I, again, am going to ask for a longer time. I believe this will go through the beginning of May, and to have the state try to get those witnesses lined up and subpoenaed while in trial, I don't believe is.
Well, if I push it out any further, the parties need to be aware that I won't be trying the case. I don't think I would be anyway. I'm rotating at the end of June.
Oh, so different judge for Brandon Boudreaux. We just
And
heard.
given some of the trainings I have to attend in June, I don't think we could get it done.
Well, both parties could send out subpoenas now for that second date for May 12th, correct?
Well, that's assuming we're done by about May 1st, probably, in this case.
We're not going to be
The
done by
first
May
case.
1st. If jury selection takes 3 weeks, the prosecution takes 3 weeks, and then Lori puts on her case, we're not going to be done in time for that.
And then, Your Honor, I did indicate that the state needs to be dark in May, the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd.
You said 21, 22, 23.
Correct.
Of May.
And I would need to be dark the 19th, 20th, and 21st as well, so.
So there's a whole week they can't even
Given
try the
we would be
case.
dark that entire week anyways,
Mhm.
it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to.
All right, sorry to interrupt. Let me speak with the criminal presiding judge about scheduling the second trial. We can discuss it on the 18th.
So we are going to be back on the 18th for another status
Let's keep
conference.
the 18th, but let's move it to later in the morning. Actually, let's move it up. All we're going to do is discuss a couple matters, and then there's no reason for the fingerprinting and stuff to be broadcast or on video, so I'll prohibit that from being recorded or otherwise broadcast. So have your person here. Let's do that at 8:15 a.m. on March 18th. And then we'll also discuss whether the defense is disclosing Lonnie Dworkin as a witness and whether or not he has a expert report prepared and disclosed at that time. I will have the questionnaire for you by then, so you can review it. Anything else we need to discuss that I've forgotten about from the state's perspective?
Your Honor, I showed 2 other motions that the defense filed that I did not see rulings on by the court. They were both motions to dismiss. One of them only related to the 2022 case, I think. No, I'm sorry. Both of them related to both.
What's the filing date?
January 14th, for one of them, was an 8.2 speedy trial one. And February 4th, which was an extradition rule 8.3.
February 4th. Okay, so the motion to dismiss CR 2022-001242 for lack of speedy trial, I ruled on January 24th.
Okay.
Already ruled,
That
denied.
entry was filed January 24th, and then the motion, was that the motion to dismiss CR 2021 and 001704 and the other for violation of Speedy Trial Act?
Correct.
That was ruled on February 25th, so last week.
Okay.
A week ago. Anything else from the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything else from the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor, I have one kind of housekeeping matter that I wanted to ask you about. I know that MCSO has some security restraints, the things that I have to wear during trial, and
I meant to.
I wanted
discuss
to ask about that as far as, am I going to be able to stand at the podium to talk to witnesses, to question my witnesses and to cross-examine, or am I going to be able to move about with the leg thing and the shock vest and all that?
you're going to stick to your table and you can go to the podium. Okay.
Okay.
When you're giving your opening statement and closing argument, you'll stay by the podium.
Okay.
And if you need to hand a witness an exhibit, your advisory council will do that.
Okay. Or my paralegal can do
Or
that
your,
too. or
well,
whatever.
is your paralegal going to be present here designated as your, I guess they can be present. I'd prefer advisory council to be the one that approaches witnesses if you need to hand an exhibit or something like that.
Okay, so I'm gonna be standing there, and if she's sitting here, she's gonna come get something from me and go walk it over to the witness and then come back?
Correct.
Just the logistics of it? just
Yeah,
fine.
and there'll be a table or a cart here that'll have all the exhibits on it within reach of the podium. So
Okay.
anything else?
Your Honor, do you use case lines for exhibits?
No.
Thank you.
I think they're still working out the bugs on that. So,
Do we need to have our exhibits in place?
all right, we'll see you at 8:15 on March 18. Be at recess on this matter.
It's usually like a day
All right.
I'm going to go back and listen to that hot mic that was going on. Yeah, so Lori keeps forgetting that there is a mute
Ma'am,
button.
can you please state your full name and then spell your
Sorry about
last
that.
name?
It's just, sorry, Ugh, that was, sorry, it went into the next video, which was from Chad's trial. Okay, so I'm going to go back and answer some questions that I starred during this hearing. If you're just joining us, thank you so much for being here, especially if you're new to the channel. I'm Megan Connor. I'm Lori Vallow Daybell's cousin, and I'm just reporting on the case and commenting on some things about Mormonism as well as the family system that Lori and I grew up in. Thank you so much for the subscriptions in the last few days. I've gotten almost 1,000 new subscribers. I'm really grateful to all of you who came to me from Dateline and from my recent appearances on Mormon Stories. Thank you for being here. And so if you're just joining us, we've been watching Lori Vallow Daybell's status conference hearing in her Arizona court case for conspiracy to commit murder in the death of her fourth husband, Charles Vallow. That case is going to be followed by a case for attempted murder, conspiracy to attempt to commit murder. I don't know exactly how you phrase that. in the shooting of Brandon Boudreaux, or the attempted shooting of Brandon Boudreaux. So the judge has been ruling on some motions. Lori made a motion to have her Brandon Boudreaux case dismissed based on a violation of her speedy trial rights. That was denied. She then came back and cited a different Arizona code. I think it was 8.3 in the first one, 8.4 in the second one. I could be wrong about the specifics of that, but in any case, that motion has also been denied. So these cases will not be dismissed. And what we just heard the judge say is that we can't do both cases concurrently. Thank you so much for this, Kelly D. I appreciate that. We can't try these cases at the same time. We can't overlap the cases. And the state intends to go forward with the second case for Brandon Boudreaux, regardless of what happens in the first case. And so the judge also has yet to rule on the motion about cameras in the courtroom. He did not make a determination on that right now today, but he is going to release a ruling at a later time. In experience with this judge, he's usually pretty quick about it. So it should be within the next couple of days. I'll be reporting on that as soon as it comes out. In addition, we are going to be back in court again a week from today at 8:15 Arizona time for another pretrial conference. We're going to be discussing some of the timing, as well as the judge has said he's going to make some exclusionary time for the for the Brandon Boudreaux trial, because there has been some time that has lapsed in her speedy trial rights there. And yes, Christina Todd, you're right. He is going to let cameras in, but he hasn't determined yet whether he's going to allow the trial to be live streamed. And he hasn't just determined whether there's going to be a delay or not for those court TV cameras. So he basically told Lori, I don't care if you don't like court TV. Okay, so I am going to go back and look at some questions. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you to everyone who has donated super stickers and super chats, to all of you who are members. I also want to point out that I do have behind the scenes and bonus content on my community, which I will put the link for that in chat right now. It's only $14.99 a month. It takes less money away from me than this platform's membership, and that's why I advocate for this rather than membership on this channel. I do members only lives, chats over there, and lots more in-depth behind the scenes and personal things. So thank you again to everyone who is joining that membership platform. I really appreciate it. She did get a little thrill when she said my paralegal. Thank you guys for your membership. So here's a few questions I want to address. And if you have more, please put them in the chat. I will definitely try to answer all your questions before we go this morning, but call attention to it visually because I'm a visual person. So Island Girl says, do you find it odd that Uncle Rex wasn't on the list of people that she wants to call? No, I don't find it odd because Rex was not actually involved. He was not present when all of this took place with Charles. Rex and his wife, Lisa, live in St. George. My parents also live in St. George. Janice and Barry also live in St. George now. However, at the time of the crime, Janice and Barry did live in the Gilbert Chandler area, and Lori and Alex were at their house just after being interviewed by the police. And so I think it's really important for us to know what happened in that time after the shooting took place, because there's some discussion about what happened during that time. Lori was telling Charles's biological children with his first wife I think she's his second wife. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, Lori was telling Charles's sons that he died of a heart attack. And then she told the same thing to Zach Cox, who's Adam Cox's son. So she was saying a lot of different things during that time, and I want testimony from the people who were there. I want to know what she said. I want to know what she did. There's been some allegation that she possibly deleted or altered emails and text messages during that time. So it's really important. But Rex, my uncle, was not there during that time. Adam was there. Summer was there. Alex obviously was there. Janice and Barry were there. Zach Cox was there. And so I wouldn't have any information. That's why I'm not being called to testify. I was not there, and Rex was not there either. So I don't think that that's particularly odd, but I wanted to call attention to that. I don't know if she's been excommunicated. I'd be surprised if she hasn't, given the fact that she's been convicted at this point. However, the only way we would know that is if somebody leaked the excommunication letter. And that probably wouldn't come from Lori. It would come probably from her church officials. To me personally, I think that the church's silence on this subject has done a lot more harm than it has done good for the publicity of the church. And I really wish that they would come out with a statement that says, look, these extra conferences that people are putting on, they've had some really harmful results, and you guys should not be attending these conferences. And they should probably, officially denounce Chad's books. They should denounce Visions of Glory. But they never want to get too far in the weeds with those kinds of things. They think that if they just ignore it, it's going to go away. And I think that's a really harmful stance. So I think it's really hilarious too when she tries to talk with her hands while she's got handcuffs on. She has no idea how ridiculous she looks. And somebody was commenting or asking whether or not she is going to be shackled when she is in court. And you heard her talking about that. So the judge is going to allow her to sit at her table and also go to the podium. She will not have leg shackles on, I don't believe. She will not have handcuffs on, I don't believe. She will, you heard her mention a shock vest. She will have a shock vest on. So that means that if she tries to do anything, disrupt the court in any way, they will shock her through the vest. She'll probably hit the floor, and the bailiffs will come and take her out of court. So if something like that happens, I think it's pretty likely that the judge will say, okay, you're done. You can't represent yourself anymore. Thank you so much, Kelly. I totally agree. The church needs to make a statement and say all that and tell that she's not a member anymore. I tend to agree with that. Okay, a couple more questions that came up while they were all talking. I want to make sure that I get to these. Lou Elo fan, I'm thinking she'll work herself up and cause a lot of commotion, so I imagine she's got to be cuffed or shackled. So that's what I was just addressing there. I jumped ahead of myself a little bit. Barbara Miller, thank you for pointing this out. The Dunning-Kruger effect is a cognitive bias that causes people to overestimate their abilities and knowledge. It can occur when people lack the self-awareness to accurately assess their skills. So a good way to just put this simply is that if you're not good at the piano, or if you're, so let's say singing, right? Because we've all seen this American Idol phenomenon where people go on the show and they think they're amazing. The very skill that it takes for them to know that they're not good at singing is the skill that they need to be good at singing. And so Lori she lacks the skill and the self-reflection ability to know that she's not doing a good job as an attorney. So she lacks self-awareness, and she can't accurately assess her skills because she really believes that she is an amazing goddess and the most qualified attorney to represent herself. And I just want to point out, she keeps referring to her experience. In my experience, yeah, she's talking about her previous trial, her criminal trial. That's what she's talking about. So a little snark for you there this morning. Insightful one, I have one question about the Mountain Meadows massacre. Ignore if not appropriate. I have the movie about it, September Dawn. Do you feel it's accurate? I do not. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints got a hold of the producers of that film as well to try and sway how the massacre was portrayed. So if you want the most accurate portrayal of the Mountain Meadows massacre, I recommend the book Vengeance is Mine. It was written by Barbara Jones Brown. It was co-authored by Barbara Jones Brown. And the name of the other author escapes me. I'm so sorry. But I bought that book while I was in the Thrive Conference in St. George last weekend. I'm halfway through it. It is absolutely fascinating and very in-depth, goes into all of that. Shock vest is karma for Alex tasing Joe. I think that's funny. Do you think she did that Dateline interview to intentionally try to taint the jury pool? Yes. And also to sway public opinion in her favor, which I think it did the opposite. I wish the church would have demanded publicly for Lori and Chad to tell where the kids were too, but the church doesn't get its hands dirty in those kinds of things. Web sleuths, I agree with you. I would pay to see Lori zapped. I know it's a little bit, this is against my character to be so snarky about this kind of stuff. I tend to try to be a little more serious, but in Lori's case, I'm going to make an exception. She infuriates me. Goodness. No, it's not very nice, and I don't care. So, goodness. Okay, a couple more questions here. Will the jury hear of the children's deaths? I believe that Lori has tried to make sure that they exclude any information about anything that happened after Charles's shooting. And I think the judge did rule on that already, that the jury will not hear of that. Barty B says, plus extra ordinances given to her by the Church of the Firstborn, like she no longer needs to wear garments. Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about her magic underwear, whether she had any. Sometimes the jail will make an exception for religious people. However, I'm guessing Lori probably did not want an exception. She hated wearing garments, and she always used to say, oh, we don't actually need like garments. The temple garments, for those who don't know, is underwear that members of the LDS Church wear after they've been through the temple. The garment is supposed to be a reminder of the covenants that they make in the temple. They have special markings in them. And it used to be a short sleeve t-shirt for both men and women, as well as a sort of boxer brief bottom for both men and women that goes down to your knees. And Lori always used to say, like, we don't have to have the full garment. All they would need would be like a little bra and panties with the correct markings in it, and we would be done. She hated wearing garments. And if you saw all of the footage of her in Hawaii, she's wearing a skirt that's way too short for garments because the garment bottoms went down to your knees. So, the speculation is that because she is part of the Church of the Firstborn, which is more exalted than the LDS Church, and she probably had extra ordinances given her, plus she's an exalted being, she's a goddess, blah, 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 she probably doesn't need to wear garments. So that's what that discussion is all about for those who are wondering. Lynn Gen 2 says Lori's only criminal experience is that of being a person found guilty of murder in the first degree, conspiracy to commit said crimes, and desecration of a body, but also the last one was fraud by deception for stealing the social security money that was coming to JJ and Tylee after they had died. Let's see. The defendant has been found guilty of killing Tylee, then bringing in her words as evidence. Yes, we see you, Tylee. You're here. Yes, you're here, Tylee. We're here with you. Thank you, thank you, thank you to the prosecution for bringing this point that the defendant benefited from the death of the person that they're trying to put in, Tylee's testimony. And so because Lori benefited from Tylee's death, they're not allowed to bring in her testimony. And I'm glad that they're not, because her police interview really does make Charles sound like he was the aggressor. But I think that was the narrative that Lori fed to Tylee during the hour that they drove around after Charles's death. Yeah, and this is true. Magnus Logie Bond points out, I completely understand why she wouldn't be in handcuffs while in front of a jury, because then she would be more her prejudice. Yeah, they would be prejudiced against her even more than just her sitting at the defense table. Yeah, this is a great book, so I hope that you get it. Yeah, this is interesting. Mountain Meadows came up in a U.S. history class. I never learned of it until AP history and college history. I brought it up in my family at one point, and I was just dismissed. Like, let's not talk about that. It's a sad history. You don't need to know about it. Tim Rathbone, good to see you. Rick Turley, yes, thank you, was the other author, and Ron Walker's book also has a book on Mountain Meadows. Thank you for that. I don't know if she did something to make her shirt a little off the shoulder. It kind of looks like she might have. I don't know. I would think that the judge, that they would want her to appear in front of the judge in a non-ripped or non-torn or non-cut prison uniform, but whatever. Will she be able to wear street clothes? Yes, she will. And her legal assistant, her paralegal, will arrange that for her, if not her mother. So to go back to other questions, So to clarify, because Tylee was unalived by Lori, her statements will not be included. Tylee's statements will not be included. That's correct. Monty D says she reminds me of John Pryor. Well, that's who her mentor was. That's how she learned how to, do all of this trial stuff, because John Pryor, I actually don't think she watched John Pryor. I don't think she was allowed to, but she does remind me of him as well. I don't think Chad will be there as a witness. If he does get called as a witness, they will probably just make some sort of exception for him to appear via video, because I don't think that he's going to be allowed to be transported as a prisoner who is on death row right now. Thank you again, Kelly D, for the super chat. I can't hide my face. I'm sorry. Just, you can understand what I'm thinking if you watch my face. Ruth Heath says Lori's going to be the best evidence of her own guilt. Her demeanor, her attitude, her own words will condemn her. And I completely agree that that's true. So this is a good question. How is Gina Ross asks, how is Lori going to be tried for Brandon, but Melanie's off scot-free? I've referenced this before on my channel. Law enforcement and prosecutors go off of likelihood of conviction. If Lori is convicted for this, for both Charles and Brandon, I don't think they're going to pursue charges against anyone else, just because they've already spent time and money on the case. They want one person at least to serve time for that. So I don't necessarily think that Melanie's going to be prosecuted just because of likelihood of conviction. I think a lot of the evidence that might be admitted would be circumstantial or hearsay. It would be hard to get a conviction that way. So I don't necessarily think that she's going to be prosecuted. I wish that she would, if she is guilty of anything. I pretty much believed that she knew way more about everything that was happening, not only with Tylee and JJ, but also with her own kids and with Alex. I think she was right in there in the very inner circle. I think she knew everything that was going on. And so anyway, I don't know what evidence, if any, there would be and what the likelihood of conviction would be, but that's usually what prosecutors go off of. Carla, do we have any ideas how she made the boo-boo on Alex's head? I don't know, but I think maybe some of that evidence will come out. Maybe law enforcement has some understanding of that. They did take take photographs of his wound after he came to the police station. So I'm hopeful that we'll hear some evidence about that during the trial. Can any of the staff be bribed to zap her? So we should take up a collection. For legal purposes, this is a joke and I do not want to be involved. Yes, insightful one saying they don't have evidence that Melanie was involved yet, or maybe they do, or maybe it was circumstantial. So Gina Ross, infuriating, isn't it? Salt and Pepper says, when a person isn't charged, it's always because the prosecution doesn't feel they have a strong enough case. It could be only about evidence, not enough to prove. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Get a tithing redirect for that fund. Again, for legal purposes, this is a joke and I do not want to be involved. Yes, a little bikini snark there. Yeah, hopefully this video evidence will come in of her sort of laughing and joking and flirting with officers right after she gets back to the house, about an hour and 15 minutes or so after Charles was shot. And yes, Barry is still alive. And I hope that he will, he's on the witness list now. Lori has put him on the witness list. And so he's going to have to be, if he's not already a witness for the prosecution, he's going to be cross-examined by the prosecution, and he's going to have to answer for his role in whatever happened in the days before and after Charles's shooting. And I should also just point out, Barry he wrote a book about how to dismantle the IRS. He believes it's an illegal organization, and he served prison time for tax evasion. So I believe that is evidence that could come in to perjure his, not perjure, what am I trying to say? to call his character into question. Sometimes I miss like the exact word there. Sorry about that, guys. Will Lori have a stylist? I mean, she can probably request specific clothing. I'm sure her mom will help her out with that. I don't know if Summer will help her out with that or not. Excuse me. Feel like Valerie Nelson says, I feel like Lori's perfectly happy in prison with her following. If you're an attention seeker, any attention will do. I agree with that. Lori was also the only one cheating on her marriage. I believe that that's true. Janice and Summer came to her last hearing, Insightful One, and I believe that Janice is in regular communication with Lori. According to the people that have told me that, she does not talk about the case, but it's just basically small talk and, you know, trying to just be family, I guess. That's my understanding anyway. Yeah, I agree with this. I don't think Chad will be transported. Hello from Scotland, Elizabeth Jones. I appreciate your support. Yeah, I found this interesting too. The judge qualified fingerprints, et cetera, being taken to possibly be used in additional charges. So it'll be interesting. A week from today, we will convene again and see what happens on that next pretrial conference hearing. Delia says, I don't understand why Lori is fighting so hard to be found innocent if this mortal world doesn't matter to her. Use your portal, woman. Yeah, I think that's why she didn't just plead guilty, is because she believes she's going to be exonerated at some point, and her pleading guilty is basically her admitting that she did something wrong. She doesn't believe anything she did was wrong. I nominate Kay to hold the zapper button. We can all speculate at how fun that would be. Again, for legal purposes, this is all just a joke. I agree with this, Lisa K. She's the only one who knew his address and schedule. Kelly D asks, do you think that there is any chance from her attitude and pro se that she wants to be found guilty and be a martyr? She says she and Chad will be exonerated. I don't think she wants to be found guilty. She's not facing the death penalty here. So I think she just wants all of the attention she could possibly get. I'm gonna just have some little daydreams about this later today. Joe Tallchief says, sometimes I like to replay Lori's call to the insurance company after Charles is gone, just to hear the crushing disappointment in her voice. That certainly was a revealing moment for her. Barry was not at the house when Charles was shot, but Barry was living in Arizona. Janice and Barry both were living nearby in Arizona, and Lori and Alex and Lori and Alex, Zach, Tylee, they were all over at the Barry and Janice Cox house later that day after they were interviewed at the police station. That's what I'm talking about. Barry had contact constantly with Lori. They are an enmeshed family system. They all were talking about this just prior to, for a long time, when Lori was telling people that Charles was cheating on her and not to talk to Charles anymore. All of the Cox family was in communication with Lori and Alex prior to Charles's death. Bookworm, thank you for this. Your recent panel discussion on Mormon Stories podcast was excellent. Thank you for doing that. Just 2 days ago, Sunday, we were on Mormon Stories podcast talking about doing an unpack basically and a recap of the Dateline interview with Lori. And I really appreciated Lauren Matthias's contributions and Gerardo Sumano's contributions. He's been following this case as well. And of course, John Dehlin with the Mormon angle for how Mormon this crime is. And yes, impeach is the word that I was looking for. Thank you for that. People on the witness list cannot be in the courtroom during the entirety of the trial. That's correct. They have to be separated, so they cannot hear the testimony of any other witnesses. They cannot watch or listen to any of the trial proceedings. They have to come in cold, having not heard anything that's been going on during the trial. Joe Tall Chief, in my opinion, if Chad and Lori were living like husband and wife, she'd bump him off for the insurance money. Possible. Dr. Ann Brixius, I don't know the answer to this question. I believe that what she does is she helps her husband, Jeff Shiflett, with his chiropractic practice there in Arizona. Tylee did, A to B, Tylee did know about the light and dark zombie beliefs. If you remember, there was a time when Lori referred to Tylee as a zombie when she was on the phone with Melanie Gibb, and you can hear Tylee in the background saying, "Not me, Mom." So she was very aware of the light, dark zombie beliefs. And unfortunately, I think she probably knew what it meant when Lori referred to her as dark. And my heart breaks for what she went through. I can't think about it too much right now because I will go down a rabbit hole, and I need to do that grieving at another time. Christina Todd says, I want to know more about this permanent makeup. I believe Lori had permanent makeup, like the eyebrow, et cetera. Everything that permanent makeup involves, I'm not totally aware of because I don't know anything about that stuff. I haven't done it. I haven't had it done. But someone commented, and maybe it was Laura Mathias, that she believed that Lori had some permanent makeup prior to her arrest. So there's that. Carla says, did anyone notice that when Lori is not in the room, she knows exactly what was going on? Alex was shocked, and in the children's case, she knew what had happened when she walked in. Yeah, she was speaking for Alex, for his state of mind, and if she tried to do that with a jury in the room, the prosecution would definitely object and say counsel can't know the witness's state of mind. She was wearing her prison jumpsuit, but some people are saying she altered it so that it would be a little bit off the shoulder. It kind of looks like she's wearing an orange sports bra underneath. I don't know if that's like standard issue prison underwear. Thank goodness I'm not really aware of that. Yes. Okay, thank you. I'm just looking for some more questions here, you guys, just before. I want to make sure I answer everyone's question before we jump off. I do want to try to keep this a little bit to 2 hours. So again, if you're just joining us, thank you for joining. Thank you for liking. Thank you for subscribing. We've been watching the trial conference, or sorry, the hearing in Lori's conspiracy trial in Arizona. The judge ruled on a couple of motions. He ruled that Tylee's testimony is inadmissible because Lori benefited from Tylee's death. And he also ruled that, yes, cameras can be included. However, he's going to write a decision where he talks about whether or not the trial can be live streamed and whether or not there will be a delay on those cameras. This is, I think, true. Lisa Kay, both Lori and Melanie's had to stay married for the insurance payouts, but that didn't work out for them. I don't know. I don't think she uses the jail bars, but a lot of times I've heard in prison that they will use empty toilet paper rolls and they'll wrap their hair around the rolls at night. So Annette says, does Lori know you do this channel? Would she be willing to be interviewed by you? Not that she would ever be truthful. I don't know if she knows that I do this channel. If she does, it's probably because Summer or Janice has told her that I have a channel. There are plenty of family members that do not like the things that I talk about. They don't like that I say what I say on my channel. But I'm not going to stop talking about my experiences. And so I have every right to talk about my experiences and to speculate on family behavior based on my experiences. And so I know there are plenty of family members who, because they don't like me, don't like what I'm saying on my channel, are very outspoken trying to discredit me. I know family members have said things like Braxton, for example. He said I had no validity in the family system because I wasn't around very much, but he forgets that Janice and Barry lived in San Antonio for 10 years and that I was there when Stacy died and that I was at their house quite frequently for family gatherings. So I spent a lot of time with the Coxes, and I think he doesn't remember that I lived with Lori for a time or that she was a bridesmaid at my wedding because he wasn't there. So there are plenty of family members, actually just a handful, maybe 3 or 4, who try to discredit me, to say that I don't know what I'm talking about. And all I have to say is that the people who speak out against me are the ones who are afraid of what I might say that might make them look bad. That's my opinion. And yes, I think the word I was looking for was impeach. Thank you for that. Yes, Joe Tall Chief, Tylee said, Mom, I'm not dark, I think. Yeah, so garments are one of those things, right? That they tell us to wear our temple garments day and night and to not look for excuses to take them off. Although obviously when we're swimming, they used to say like the 3 S's, swimming, sports, and sex, you can take your garments off, but you're supposed to like finish your activity and immediately put them back on. And, you know, there is a question in the Temple Recommend interview where they ask, are you wearing your garments as instructed? And Lori probably just lied about that. You know, people do it all the time. Okay, so just scanning for some more questions. Yes, Adam was in contact with Charles via text. So the pool party thing, I don't necessarily think that there was a party, just the fact that if you get all of the Coxes together at the same time and they're outside of the pool, it can sound loud like a party. I don't know if they believed it was a party because there was music playing or what. I haven't heard people talk about that. All I can say is that the Coxes, you know, Lori's house and at the Cox's house, if they had a pool outside, they were out of the pool all the time. So they would have been eating out there, possibly talking loudly, kids playing in the pool, splashing, might have sounded like a party. I don't know exactly the circumstances. I think exceptions can be if they're designated law enforcement. That's true. We're talking about witnesses being allowed to be in the courtroom. If they're designated law enforcement and or designated victims, they can be in the courtroom. But is that why Nate Eaton is now on the witness list to keep him out of the courtroom? I missed that part earlier. I don't know if that's the case. Sometimes people text me while I'm on live to correct me. Oh. Not that though. Okay. Yes, I agree. Zach's interview with Justin Lum was very insightful. I'm going to go back and watch that prior to the trial. By the way, Zach is an insurance agent in Arizona. If anyone needs insurance, he actually does my car insurance for me, even though I live in Texas. So if anyone needs an insurance agent, I recommend him. He's very, very good. Witness list. I will look for it. It's partially on Justin Lum's Twitter account. He posted part of it, but that was just what Lori listed, and it's not the prosecution section of it. So I will look for that. I'll try to find it for you. And insightful one, if you have any info about that, I would really appreciate it. Lori did not have evidence that Charles was cheating on her, but what Lori would frequently do is just make up a lie about someone and then tell the entire family to believe that lie and not to talk to the person she was lying about. That's exactly what she did to me when she got me removed from the apartment I was living with her and Adam in Austin. So I've been on the receiving end of her discard, and so that's her MO. She loves to do that. I don't know if her mom thinks she's innocent or not. I don't know what Janice is. I don't know what her point of view is. But I can imagine how difficult it must be to know that you have 2 children who have done these horrific things and killed people. So I can't imagine how she must be feeling. Although if she participated in covering up any of this, I have zero compassion for her. I have zero compassion for any individual who participates in the harm of children. And I believe that when you conceal evidence of a child being harmed, you are just as guilty as the person harming the child. That is what I have to say about that. I don't know about this, Joe. If you have a reference point for Tylee saying that, I would love to hear that. There's a lot of things that I've missed, you guys. about this case, just because I was not, once Lori was arrested, I stopped looking for news reports about what was going on with Lori. And once the children were found, I completely disengaged from the case until her trial started. Sorry, my trauma brain, it moves slow sometimes. So yeah, I just wanted to say that there's probably a lot in this case that I don't know or understand. That you probably do. I have since then dug into it very deeply. Thank you, Jen. I don't know if I can share this or not. Jen just texted me a picture of Lori's original eyebrows, and I don't know if I can share it or not. Let me see if I can. I know I can share. Well, let me see. Image. Okay, so I think what I'm going to have to do is go over here, download this image. And then maybe I can share it. She sent me a picture of, yeah, I could also hold my phone up, but I just downloaded it. So let me see if now I can share it. Downloads. Hello. Are you there? Okay. Well, I guess it's not letting me access my downloads at the moment while I'm streaming, which is odd because I literally just downloaded it, but I guess it didn't go to my computer downloads. So I'm going to have to hold my phone up to the screen, which feels super ghetto, but here we go. Just so that you guys can see what her original brows looked like when she was arrested. There it is. I'll try to get closer so you can see. Sorry for the reflections of the lights, but those were her original brows when she was arrested. So it's very possible, I suppose, that she either got prison tattoo brows, or she used a permanent marker of some kind, or maybe she used mascara to like fill them in or something like that. So yeah, very interesting. Jen, and this is Jen, my mod, who sent this to me. Thanks for being here, Jen. Says, I've had my brows tattooed for 3 years now and already had to touch up once. So interesting. Hilo Fan 45 says, you can make anything out of toilet paper in jail. Okay, how do you know? And what have you made out of toilet paper? Maybe we should have a toilet paper party where we do our hair with toilet paper, toilet paper rolls, just to see. Ruth, thank you so much for this. We're your family now. I appreciate you so much. That's so kind. I am just looking for any more questions that we have here before I jump off. I am taking some much needed break. This last weekend was very, very difficult for me. Having to listen to the Dateline interview on Friday, which I was really grateful to have done here with you beautiful human beings. That was very helpful for me. Yes, there is footage from them buying flip-flops the day Charles was murdered. They went to Burger King to get breakfast for JJ. They went to Walgreens to get flip-flops because both of them left the house without shoes. They dropped off JJ at school, and then they went to Jeff Shiflett's chiropractic clinic, which Summer was not in town when this happened. I don't know if the clinic was open. I don't know if Jeff was there. I don't know who they talked to, but I'm hoping that we're going to get some of that evidence coming in. Yes, Annette Martinez, Janice spent a lot of time in the sun. She was laying out and going to tanning salons all the time. Yes, and I feel so much for Colby as well. He has lost more than anyone else in this whole terrible saga, and I am very happy to see how well he is doing. And I hope that you follow his podcast, the Scar Wars podcast. He talks a lot about the healing that he's been doing. So Lisa K, yes, Zach can do insurance in other states. He is licensed in more states than just Arizona. So I appreciate that. You know, I wish the police had been more on the ball too. Ruth Heath, she says, who knows what forensic evidence they might have found on the actual shoes they were wearing. And also, I just wish they would have held Alex for longer, knowing that he had a criminal record. He served jail time for tasing Joe Ryan, which shows a pattern of aggression against Lori's partners. So, yeah, and here's another funny thing that I will show you. One of the funniest things that Lori said during her Dateline interview was, Jesus loves everyone, but he loves me best. And one of my Facebook friends sent this to me. They were in Walmart, and look what they found in the t-shirt section. Jesus loves you, but I'm his favorite. Walmart t-shirt for $6.98. So there you go. That's how smart Lori is that she's quoting $6.98 Walmart t-shirts. I do think that JJ's biological parents know of his passing. They are Kay and Larry Woodcock's relations, and so I'm sure that they've let them know. Actually, I think that JJ's biological father actually over the phone was able to give a statement at JJ and Tylee's memorial. Remember correctly? Kresha will have to confirm that for me, but I think that was the case. I was singing at the funeral service, and so I tried really hard not to listen to a lot of it because I had to sing 3 different times during the service, and it's very difficult to sing and cry at the same time. So I didn't want to listen to the service while it was happening so that I would be able to sing. So I listened to it afterwards, and that weekend was quite a blur because immediately after the service, I drove to Boise to go and be at court for Chad's case. And then I drove back down to Salt Lake to fly back home. So it was a lot. So if I'm getting that wrong, I apologize. Thank you for this, Judy Duke. She says, yeah, on a police interview, Melanie Gibb told the cops that Melanie asked Lori if Lori had evidence on Charles cheating, and she shook her head and said no, so she's a liar. So thank you for this, Salt and Pepper. His father's incarcerated and his mother is now deceased, but was living when JJ was murdered. I'm so sad about this. Yeah. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate that. Insightful One says there's a lot of things too that aren't fact but get spread as facts. There's always the mythology of a case too. So thank you for saying that. There's a lot of speculation that has been presented as factual. The recording, I don't know if that's part of the court information or if I heard that recording on one of the news outlets. So if anybody knows, that recording of the phone call between Lori and Melanie Gibb where she refers to Tylee as being dark. And yes, I am so thankful for Colby's awesome wife, Kelsey. She sounds amazing. I hope to meet her at some point. Thanks, Jennifer Hodge. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thanks for the likes and the subscribes and for all of your support. This means a lot to me, and it really helps me to process all of my feelings and to grieve properly. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Kate Ginger Cat. Yes, and some prisoners are allowed to purchase makeup through the commissary, and I believe that is the makeup that she used for her Dateline exclusive interview. Dateline confirmed they did not provide hair and makeup for her for that interview. And I said if somebody did do her makeup, they did not like her very much. I don't know what the deal was with her, you know, rust-colored eyeshadow going all the way up to her eyebrows. It was really not attractive. Anyway, just looking for, oh, interesting, Christina Todd, you have to turn in the empty roll to get new toilet paper. So maybe there is an underground commodity exchange of empty toilet paper rolls. Oh, goodness. Yes. And thank you for pointing out, Jennifer Hodge. Adam said when Adam asked his mom, Adam asked Janice about the circumstances of the case, about the, Adam accused Alex and Lori of conspiring to kill Charles, and Adam was kicked out of the house. Janice told him to leave. Janice told him he was not part of the family anymore. Subsequently, Adam reconciled with his parents, but this is sort of the MO. If you disagree with Lori, if you disagree with the official family narrative, you might as well be dead to them. That's basically how it is. So that's why I want to hear more about what happened. This is a great idea. I'm going to go get outside and get on the water, because that always makes me refresh and restore. And I'm going to take a couple of days to not talk about the case. I'm going to come back with another episode on, I noticed Lila Tuller was in the chat earlier. I have an interview with her that's going to come out, I think, on Thursday, if I get a chance to edit it. She is writing a book about spiritual abuse, and she's looking for stories of spiritual abuse to include in her book. So that interview will come out on Thursday, as well as the information of where you can submit your story if you want. She's trying to get that out, by the end of this month, I think. So, yes. Okay. Thanks for confirming this. I wondered if I was not remembering that correctly. So thank you for confirming. Thank you for this, Conrad Warren. That's a really interesting thing that I didn't know, even though I have a master's degree in vocal performance. Chant de pleurs. Is that French? It sounds French. And I know that pleurs is tears in French, or something like crying. And I think chant is singing in French. So that's really interesting. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm such a nerd. I always like to know these things. And there are people who can do it. Don't get me wrong. If you ever saw the Broadway show, Dear Evan Hansen, the guy who played him, whose name escapes me right now, he did such an excellent job of crying and singing every single night when he did that show. And it was beautiful and it was gorgeous. So I think this is correct too, Jennifer Hodge. They rip up sheets to make those little ties that you can tie your hair up in. And Jen is forwarding me the witness list. Yeah, this is a partial witness list. This is the one I showed earlier on in the episode from Lori. So just a partial list. Yeah, poor lighting and mirror in the cell. Hard to get your makeup right when that's the case. Insightful one. I am with you on this. Yeah, I think it's a beautiful word too, Conrad. Thank you for pointing that out to me. Yes, Ben Platt, the original Evan Hansen. And he also appeared in the movie version as well. Just a heartbreaking story, an incredible story, a beautiful musical. Andy Graham, thank you, or Andrew Graham, thank you for this. Thanks for the beautiful light blue hearts. I love that color. The purpose of my channel is healing. It is to point out the behaviors of manipulative people so that more people are not harmed. The point of my channel is to talk about this case in the context that everybody knows someone like Lori. We all have someone in our life who is manipulative, who is controlling, who will lie to get what they want, who over-exaggerates, who is grandiose. They don't all end up doing what Lori did, right? But manipulative people, by their very nature, cause harm. They cause emotional harm. And I don't want more people to be manipulated by people like Lori. And so I want people to learn these tactics. I want them to be aware of the behaviors and the healthy ways to defend against them. Calling out narcissists and manipulators is not a good idea, because as you saw the way that Lori responded in her Dateline interview. She is never going to admit that she's done anything wrong or that she has lied. And even confronted with the receipts of the facts of what she did, she still maintains that those are lies and rumors. So understanding how to respond to manipulative people is really, really important. And they do absolutely, Rob and Yancey Tansey, they wreck families. And I was surrounded by narcissists and abusers my entire life. And I have learned how to heal, and I want to help other people heal too. The best thing that you can do if you're dealing with a manipulative person is to protect your emotional peace by not revealing to them that you know what they are, and by not revealing to them how you feel about it. My best way of healing and dealing with these types of people is to take a step back, to take your power back. Don't share things with them that are important to you, because they will just use it to manipulate you and expose you. So I really appreciate you being here with me this morning. Thank you for all of your support and your kindness. We will be back again in 1 week doing the next status conference, and tune in on Thursday for a new episode. And I will most likely have lives in between now and then as well. If you subscribe to my community forum, which I will put the link here in the chat one more time, I will be doing behind the scenes footage. I will be doing members only lives. I feel a little safer in behind a paywall to share some of my more private thoughts and feelings, as well as things that me and my family are up to. So if you join my community, you'll be able to get more content there. So thank you so much for being here this morning. Everybody, take care of yourselves. Please be good to yourselves. Please do something kind just for you today. Tell yourself how beautiful, wonderful, kind, and important you are. And justice for Tylee, JJ, Charles, Tammy, and Joe. And thank you for being here. Please take care of yourselves. See you soon.